Hey, everybody, strike up the band for the Allen's Easter Parade.
Yes, Easter's on its way, and it's time for Allen's famous chocolate bunnies, roosters, ducks, and Easter eggs. Allen's have been making wholesome confections for over 50 years, the good old-fashioned way, from pure milk chocolate. Easter morning, treat your family to the scrumptious taste of Allen's.
Look for me on the package.
Only Allen's has the Easter bunny right in its name.
Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal Portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Hey everybody! Happy Easter if you are so celebrating, and I hope you enjoyed that. My
total bad that I'm late, but I had to send that to you guys because, a little extra because it's a holiday. And if you didn't get any jelly beans, well, you got a big intro. And I hope you enjoyed looking back over all the eggs and the old postcards and the way people dressed, and all the way back to the early 1900s in New York in the Easter parade, and how everybody just gathered in the streets. And now they gather in the streets for different reasons, but that's beside the point. I hope they're dressed well doing it. So there you go. If you're whatever you're doing with your eggs today at your business, and with colored, decorate them, do whatever you want, and your bunnies. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed it. I love that look back. That, of course, featured Asbury Park, New Jersey, and my family. Well, my mother and I spent a lot of time, a few Easters I can remember going there, and family, and the dressing up and the big hats. And, it's funny how in a very short amount of time, everything just changes. And now peeps give you cancer, the pink ones and the lavender ones anyway. How many of you just spit out a peep? The red dye, number 3 or whatever. So I don't see Michael in here. I'm going to get our wonderful, lovely co-host. You know her well. She is an author. She is a medium. She has abilities that, you can't put labels on, but everybody it helps people get an idea of where kind of people are. But you have to understand it goes so much deeper than that, especially when you're an experiencer and you've gone through the things Lynn's gone through and learned through the things Lynn's learned through. That's the most important thing. That's what we're all here to do. And that's why we're here tonight, to learn from each other. So before I even say hi to all you wonderful gatekeepers in here, and Peter, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to see you. Just, it's wonderful to see you here. And everybody else, it's just great to be here tonight. So anyway, Lynn, in the medical field for decades, and she's paid attention when she's done all these things. And she's here to talk about a lot of those experiences tonight. So come on in here, this beautiful lady. Hello, darling. Happy Easter.
Hi, happy Easter.
Oh,
well, it looks like I'm looking off the other direction. I'm going to switch my camera real quick.
I am as well. There we go. Woo, hold on, everybody. Hold on.
Not to make everybody dizzy.
We're okay. We went around. We all had our seatbelts on, right, gatekeepers? We're ready to go.
That's right. There we go.
I'm trying to send Dr. Mike another invite. I don't see him in here in the green room.
Okay.
If you can do that as well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do it via here instead of my phone.
Okay.
I see where I sent it to him, but maybe he doesn't see it.
Yeah, he gave a thumbs up on it. I'm going to also send him a message. He's usually always on time.
That's fine. He can take as long as he wants. I just want to make sure that he has it and it's of his own.
Let's see here. Plus, I put an SOS out in our group to track him down.
Well, that's fine. He might be coming back from somewhere and, just being, it matters not, because we're going to chat. So, if you don't mind, I want to say hi to everybody on Common. Thank you so much. Bud Evans, welcome in. Ted, you wonderful. It's just lovely to see you all here tonight. Sammy Jane, wonderful. I hope you guys enjoyed the intros, because not just the Easter, and I have to do something. That's my way of celebrating, doing that stuff for you guys. And but the dance macabre, oh my gosh. So I'm digging through. I find Kevin MacLeod. He's got like this wonderful pages and pages and pages and pages of music. And every once in a while I'll find one I hadn't seen. So I grab it and I'm listening to it, and I never even checked out the name. And I said, all I see is skeletons dancing and just going crazy in the graveyard, and just have at it, all this, a wonderful bats flying and vampires coming out of the trees and coffins opening and whatever. That's what I saw. So I start making this thing, and I go back and I look at the name of the song, and it's Dance Macabre. I mean, whether I saw it in my subconscious or it just visually put in my mind the pictures, that it was supposed to, I guess. I don't know. It was so funny. Anyway, So that's why you got that one as well. So it was so much fun. Thank you, Sammy Jane. I love you being here. Thank you so much, and thank you for everything you contribute to this chat. It's wonderful to have you, Glenn. As always, wonderful to have you in here, and Edna. I know I saw that you were cooking all day. Gosh, I didn't. We just didn't. You know what we did today? You'll never guess. I could give you 1,000 guesses, and you'll never guess what I did.
You colored eggs.
No, better. I smoked raccoons.
What?
Yep.
What is
I
that?
can explain. So there's been a rattling around in my attic, and and I'm thinking, oh, squirrels in the attic. So we go, and somebody had knocked out a couple of the little slats that are on your vent, and got a hole and got up into the attic. So I went up there with stainless steel bowls and sticks of sage and smoked the heck out of it. So everything be gone out of that thing, and then we replaced it, and we had to fix that whole thing. So that was my Easter. My Easter was doing that intro for you guys. So I hear him. Dr. Mikey's here. He is here.
Yay.
No rush. So Lynn, I'm going to give the standard intro, and then I'm going to, because he's got a wonderfully bio, and I don't want to cut it short, because, in no way do I mean that in any kind of disrespect. It's just, he's been on so many wonderful documentaries and TV shows and radio shows and hosted shows. And I've seen him on many interviews. I love his YouTube channel, and we're going to share that tonight in the chat. But here's the thing. Lynn and I get together and we talk about this all the time. Everything's connected. And we nod our heads, and we have guests on, and we smile, and we say, you don't realize how deep it goes. And, people come on, and different paranormal investigators think about orbs a different way. And I have great stories about when my kids were little, and I used to watch Ghost Hunters all the time. And it would be so bad. I was such a bad parent dragging them through the paranormal the way I did. They would sit at the dinner table and have conversations when they were 8 and maybe 6, and say things like, oh, that's just an orb. Jason hates an orb. They don't count. You can't count those. It's just dust or a bug or something. And think about how young they were. This is the up and coming TV shows where they were taking out everything, feeling and abilities and intuition and things like that. And people like Lynn and I are fighting for the rights of orbs and feelings and things like this on shows like this. And then along comes somebody like Dr. Mike, who explains it in such a way that you can't help but understand we are all connected a lot deeper than you think. And the roots, they do go far, don't they, Lynn?
Yes.
How would you
absolutely.
like to bring in this gentleman?
Oh, there, as you said, there are so many things. He is just amazing, and he's such a wonderful person, and very personable, very great sense of humor. In addition to all of his brilliance, he's also a very handsome man. So he's pleasant to look at, and does not look his age at all. And he's happily married with a very, very long time. But anyway, I think that I'm going to let him kind of tell more.
Fantastic.
Of what he does,
I think let's bring him in before he runs off at this point. Here we go. Welcome in, Dr. Ray.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome.
Hi.
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me okay?
I hear you great. I hear
okay?
you wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time on this busy weekend. To come in here. But hey, gosh, what a subject to talk about on such a day that we really, it's wonderful. So thank you so much for doing this. And this is our wonderful live chat. They are a wonderful group of people who actually, let's put it this way, they're going to pick up what you're putting down, because as we talk about this all the time, and I think you explain everything so beautifully. We want to share your YouTube channel. And you said the other day, some of these videos are older and they go back, but it doesn't matter, because it resonate. They resonate, and consciousness and what people are ready to listen to at a certain time. I thought that they were absolutely wonderful, and I thank you so much for coming here tonight.
Oh, no problem. No problem. It's it's different. You know, my story goes back a long way, but in the late 80s and early 90s, a lot of things happened in technology. Okay.
Mhm.
And that technology,
They're just sending love. Keep going.
Okay, kept us interested in this. And what the weird part about this is that I read a lot of books dealing with the theoretical, you know, do ghosts exist? Does consciousness exist after death? And things like this. It was all theoretical. And then I read a book by Lloyd Auerbach.
Mhm.
And Lloyd,
Good old Lloyd,
wrote several things. And there was another gentleman by the name of Pierce, I think. And he wrote a book. He was from England. And he wrote a couple of books. And so I was reading this, and the thing that struck me the most, you know, just give you a little bit of my history. I said, well, does it exist or not? That is the question. So the question came up. This is my hypothetical question. Are there elephants in Africa if you've never seen one?
Mm-hmm.
And then you would call a guide or a hunter. Oh, hang on a second. I wonder why this. Hang on, just a second. There we go. Now you might be able to see me better. Okay.
I see you. We see you great. We see you great. But you're saying basically, like, if the Pope trips in the woods, does the bear see it?
That's right. Okay. Exactly. And
that's a term I can understand.
Yeah, that. Sure. And so the argument became when I kind of got started in the business was, well, you have to use a psychic, you have to use a Ouija board, you have to use some form of divination, of channeling to access that other side. There is no scientific evidence. There's no scientific device that you can use at that time to generate evidence. I guess that's what it was.
Evidence proof that we always say it's very difficult because you can't get a ghost, to come in and do that again and do it on command and repeat it again and do it. That's basically it. It's more of the timing and the almost in some walks of life, they would call it miraculous.
Exactly.
In the timing.
There's
and
no
everything.
They had no other language for it. So it was miraculous. It was a miracle. It was extraordinary, extrasensory. There was no real words for what was about to happen. And so in the late 90s, my team, we did a paranormal, it had a paranormal team, and we sit down and we decided to say, okay, well, everybody has voiced their opinion. We need to find out a way to actually develop evidence or equipment that would give us evidence so that we could go into this genre and be able to understand it. So it's kind of like you call up somebody and you say, can you take me to see the elephants in Africa? And they would say, oh, I've got a haunted house for you, And so on our very first investigation, we set up a camera, just one camera. And we sit there for about an hour and caught over 8 different entities and a mist. We had never seen that before, and no one else had ever seen that before. And so we went to a conference. Troy Taylor, you may know him as a haunted historian now because he's not a paranormal investigator, but he put up a conference one time and he was trying to sell his books, which I understand, but he had no idea of the complexities of the paranormal. So we had this videotape. It was an hour filled with ghosts on it and myths, and a lot of it came from underneath people's beds. And there is a monster that lives under your bed. I got that on tape. So
I've been telling y'all.
Yeah. When a kid said there's a monster in my closet, believe you me, there's a monster. We
Please
can find that monster.
Children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually did several investigations, and the entities are always in the closet. I did.
Isn't that funny though?
Yeah.
Back parts of, cellars and attics, in the back part. We were joking because today I spent the day cleaning out the attic and smoking the attic out to get rid of the squirrels and everything. Give them a chance, everybody, to get out, right?
Right.
But
right,
we're
right.
laughing because I'm thinking, well, anything else that's up here is getting saged out and sweet grassed out too,
Yeah.
Because, and that's just the way it is, the whole house. But isn't it funny though? Everything you're saying up until this point, we get it too, because we're saying it. This is why we're trying to prove it's about in here and the most natural things, and the fact, and this is just all the wrestle in
this is paranormal.
Not, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's not really paranormal. We discovered that in the early 2000s. This is all natural and normal.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It is normal. And then there was this one investigator, I forgot her name. She did EVP. She went to graveyards and did EVP sessions. She had a couple of different recorders, and she would ask questions, and she would get responses back. A lot of her responses, oddly enough, were children, and they seemed to be lost children in this graveyard. And then she coined the phrase that this is all normal, and it struck us as absolutely. And we decided then to start looking, not as it's not really paranormal. I mean, that's the spooky. If you want to be horrified or spooky, then yeah, you could still say it's paranormal, but it's not. It's all natural. It's all normal. Consciousness survives the body. We determine where we are at what frequency we resonate at, and where we're going to be. So the whole thing. So the whole thing is, okay, if you have a grandparent that died before the grandchild was born or the great-grandchild was born, sometimes they show up and they're monitoring that child, you see. And the adults, the mother and father go, oh, there's a ghost in the house, and we see it move objects, and we hear it do that, and we hear it do this. And then you find out that, yeah, you do have a ghost. It's your great grandparents, and they're here watching over your family. And then they go, oh, they must be demons because they're not in heaven. And I said, where do you think heaven is?
Yeah.
For many years, I said, we are in heaven. Okay. Now I have to back up on that statement, because now we found out that it is the energy of heaven. We are in the energy of heaven. And that's why these entities can be here. Now, a lot of entities, yes, they don't want to go into the light. They live in your basement. They'll be next to your washer and dryer, or the drain in your basement, because that's where the energy vortex is. And that's where they go to harbor, because they want to have a constant flow of energy that makes them dynamic. Dynamic is I guess the word. So there are bad spirits, but 90% of everything that I've encountered is relatives, is people who used to own the house. They're still there. They still look over the house. We went through this whole thing where the house picks its occupants.
Yep. Happens.
It happens. Yeah. And people sit there and go, I went through 4 or 5 homes, and they all fell through. And then we picked this one home, and then everything worked perfectly. We got the loan, we got the paperwork done. We were able to move in a couple of weeks, and it was just that consciousness that was in the home said, I want them to live here. And then they're there. Okay. The same thing happened with me in a former house. There were 2 entities that lived in a closet. I call it Ethel and Herman or whatever. And they were not former residents. They used to own the home. The home was built in 1903. So it had a lot of turnover. But I was the first one that actually found them coming out of the closet, videotaped them coming out of the closet and wandering around the house, And then I come across this other entity, which I call it Speedy. And so at the old days, we had these cathode ray tube monitors, these old big monitors. And so I would sit in front of my monitor and I would type on my computer, but I set my camera up just above, just on top of the monitor. And I would sit there, but I would act like I'm typing, but I would be recording video through my computer.
Mm-hmm.
And this Zippy would just zip around.
Wow.
Just zip around. Okay. And I go, man, that guy is fast. He's fast. He's furious. He never stays in the same place more than a couple of seconds. So I'll just call him Speedy. And Speedy would always show up around me when I'm at home. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, well, that's pretty cool. Now, we're not talking about attachments here. No, we're not talking about attached entities. We're just talking about entities that are in your
environment.
Space. In your environment. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, sometimes I would see Speedy and sometimes I wouldn't. Well, it wasn't a couple of years later. I'm talking to a psychic and I want a psychic to do a reading for me. Well, what I did was, she knew what I was doing, and I set up my equipment, my portable stuff, and I went and I let her go into her psychic mode. And so she gets into the psychic mode. She sits back in a chair, and I see on the camera and on my monitor something that shows up about the size of a cantaloupe, and it's an orb. It's a round orb, and it starts to float around her chair. And she goes, my guide is here. And his name is Willow. And he's here. He's one of my guides. And I said, yeah, I can see that, Willow. Yeah, I can see Willow. So I started asking her a series of questions. And then she comes up with one question that Willow cannot answer. And then all of a sudden, this, which looked a lot like Zippy, but it was more energetic. Anyway, it shows up and it flies around the room. And I go, well, there's somebody else in this room. And she goes, yeah. She goes, there's an angel, there's an angel that is here in the room. And I go, really? And she goes, yeah. And this angel has your answer. And because Willow couldn't do the answer for her for some reason. Anyway, this angel appears and it starts floating around the room. And I swear on a stack of whatever you want, that it looked like Tinkerbell. It just looked like Tinkerbell. I mean, it wasn't a fairy because I know what fairies look like, but it looked like Tinkerbell and was just as luminescent as you could possibly be. Well, she goes, well, it's an angel and blah, blah, blah. And so I said, okay, we now know what an angel looks like. So we get on other investigations, and lo and behold, these things started to appear. Now, I was going to do a conference, and so I said, well, I'll take my new equipment out, and I'm going to videotape in my backyard. And this angel, you'll see it on that episode. Mm-hmm. This angel comes out of nowhere and then comes and flies right in front of me. And it's effervescent. It is so bright. Wow. It's brighter than a street light. I thought it was just a street light at first, but it comes right up to me, and it's just dances in front of me because, see, I'm not a psychic, so I don't know what it said, but it was there for a little while, and it just kind of like, okay, well, you got me on video. So this flew off and just disappeared, just like went right through our reality into nothing, just gone. Just in and out. Yeah. And so
and I think a lot of things can do that. Not to just to add to what you're saying. And I know Lynn does too. That's what we feel and we see. And people make it such a, like you said, it's so normal. Yes. And that's what we're trying to tell everybody. If you just realize that we're all connected, it's all part, we're all breathing in and out in this energy. And those of us, the ones that we love, ones that love us that we don't even know exist, like our guides, our higher self, maybe from other lives, friends and pets and everything else. And these things come and go in our lives now as we need them, if that makes sense.
so
because
true.
they each have different talents, let's say, and specialties and things like that. And all this is so normal. I mean, whether you're talking about Bigfoot in and out or aliens, interdimensionals, whatever.
Right.
All of it.
Right.
So
in my case, normally the guides or your angels will appear just before the event takes place. So by the time you get around to pray for them, they are already in the room. They're already here. And so you have to understand that they know you better than you really know yourself. And they're going to be there to protect you, give you advice, wisdom, and help you the best they can without interfering in your destiny. And then that's the other thing too. We all have a destiny. We all have a path in life. And this path is laid out for us before we even get here. And so the angels along the way know that you're going to need help. You're going to need help. And that's the whole key. We are never alone. We are never alone. I was talking, now Lynn knows her. I was talking to Renee Nagel the other day on, on not, it wasn't Zoom. It was like Facebook chat or something like that. So we could see each other. And in the background of her house, there was this angel flew right by the camera. And she's on her laptop. She has a little camera in her laptop. And I said there, I looked at it, I go, Renee, you've got an angel there. And she looked around. She goes, I don't see anything. I said, no, I just saw it. And then about 5 minutes later, it flew back up again. And I said, well, that's your angel. It's going to give you a message. It's going to watch over you and monitor you. And so it got to a point to where when we got an angel on video or during an investigation, I would either call the psychic or invite the psychic to come with us so that we would know what we're looking at. And then she could tap into what kind of entity that was. So we get to this
real quick. I want to just stop you there. Hold 1 second. This is important. So what about the people that aren't religious? Angels are not religious. They're spiritual.
That's right.
That's true.
They belong to every all of these things that separate people. If you don't mind, Dr. Mike, let me just,
no, that's fine.
All of these things that separate everybody are about control. What brought us together tonight, the love, the interest, the questioning, the mystery, the synchronicity, the
openness,
timing, the openness, the love energy, the healing energy, that's real. And they want to separate you from that. So they throw these things at you and give you labels and point their finger and judge, and has nothing to do with that. A pot of boiling water, it does not ask permission before the steam rises and changes. Do you see what I mean? Water doesn't ask permission before it evaporates and moves on to do something else.
Exactly.
We are the same.
Yes.
So don't ever let anybody separate
you
from that.
That's a good example. Oh, Lynn, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, and that's the reason that we're all here together talking about this tonight. Between medicine and religion, they have pushed so much of this away. So like Cisco said, and like Dr. Mike said, this is not about any of that. Everybody has these, and many of them are ignored because people are not aware of it. So this is to bring awareness. This is like the next level. You got them too, baby. Yeah, this is like the next level paranormal. I hate that word because this encompasses so much more than that. Right. Yeah. So, but it is wonderful. We're talking to people here that know that these things exist. So it's great that we can all come together.
I'm kind of preaching to the choir. I understand that, but at the same time, we can install new information.
Yes.
And we get it. Okay. Like what you said, Cisco. It's a form of control to maintain obedience.
Yes.
And they take away the vital areas that you really need to concentrate on. There's a new movie coming out with Russell Crowe called The Pope's Exorcism. Exorcism. Yeah.
I saw it. Yeah, I love
And-
Russell Crowe too. I'm like this. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know.
And it's like, okay, well, why is there just one?
Mm-hmm.
If you believe that exorcism is so bad and detrimental, why don't you have 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 exorcists?
Nice Templar. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like a Nice Templar army.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like an army of exorcists that would go out and do that. Now, exorcisms have been on the rise. Population has increased. So there's a lot there. But the deal is that if you were taught from the pulpit the truth about spirituality, then you could learn to protect yourself.
Very true.
You see what I'm saying?
That's it. That's the most important thing you're ever going to hear. And
Right.
that's what we say on this show every time. That's why you get musical intros, because it stimulates, it raises your vibration, it creates emotion, it gets you ready to listen to these things, and it connects you to self, your power, your inner light, the most powerful thing that nobody wants you to know about.
That's right. That's right. We are not an army of one, not an individual. We are an army that has infinite capability, power, capability, and we can call on that at a moment's notice. Jesus talked about it quite a bit, and it's just true. It's true. It's the entire power of creation, of love, of understanding, of wisdom, mercy. Now, getting back to the water. Okay. If I have an ice cube, the ice cube is dense. It's a dense thing. And if I put it in the room temperature, it'll melt and it becomes just water as we know it. So it's changing energy because the density is created by the cold, the slowing of the electrons, the molecules. They slow down, they become dense. They go into room temperature, they become liquid. But if you heat up the liquid, so every energy finds its own state. So you heat up the liquid, it turns into steam. What does steam do? It expands. It goes until it finds its own energy level. So when we die, when our spirit leaves our body, it will go to where that vibration is equalized. So we leave our body, we go down a long tunnel through the darkness that surrounds our universe, and then we appear in heaven, in a form of heaven or the afterlife, and we reach that equilibrium of energy. So if you're a depressive or you have a lot of problems, demons in your psyche,
lower vibrational emotions, and
right, you will go to that level. If you have a higher vibration, you will go to that level. So we all go almost to the same place, but at the same time, there are other places that we will vibrate to, and then we will go there. So
I almost want to tell him my dad's story. Should I?
Oh, please. Yes.
Yeah,
And
go
also,
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And also keep in mind that you can change that vibration, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Always you can change it. And we often, Lynn, do we not have some come back? I don't want to say earthbound, but let's just say they're like kind of going in and out. They're completely crossed that come back to help the living, to actually help their own vibration lift.
That's true.
And it's amazing how they know that. I'm like, I want to know did they get to see a page of the rule book? That's what I want to know. Yes. So here was an experiment with my dad. My dad was one of those, he passed when I was like 18. Last time I saw him, I was 3. So it's one of those. Many sisters and brothers, all older than me, all of them curse his name, and I thought, I'm going to try an experiment. So I'm at a medium, and that was familiar talking with my mother's energy when she came through over the years. And at one point in time, I said, I want to find out about Dad. And she says, I don't want to talk about him right now. I want to talk about through the medium. This is all like, you know, like a United Nations roundtable here, you know, we're all go. So through the meeting it is, and she says, I don't want to talk about, and I said, oh, listen, before I go, I really, because listen, nobody else is going to be sending him good energy. He's got to be going through a healing process of trying to deal with all the pain he left here. I'm going to do different, you know? So she goes, all right, I'll go. This is exactly what she said via the medium. I'll go down and get him. And me being just a novice and learning this like 20 years ago, I go, no, don't go down there. The medium's laughing. Obviously, from what the medium says, my mother's laughing. And she goes, no, he's vibrating. This is what she says. He's vibrating on a lower vibration.
That's right.
And she literally went down. What the medium saw was like her pulling him up by his ear and his collar. You know what I mean? And she goes, here he is. Say what you want to say. But that's what, is that not amazing? But, you know, when we get these little snippets from spirit, and it validates what we're learning, what our consciousness is raising and learning here, step by step. We're all teaching each other and learning from each other. It's mind-blowing when the other side gives us something to go, that a girl or that a boy, you know? It's amazing.
Okay. We have to look at it like this. If we're in trouble, we need someone that loves us to help us. Okay. Whether we're on that side or this side. So they will, so those that really love us or care for us will come. But those that hate us, they're not going to show up. They're not going to waste their time. So a lot of times it's the same on the other side. You'll go, they will go to the other side, and then you will ask an angel, your angel, it could be your angel. There's several different varieties of angels. So you could ask your angel to go get them and take them someplace better. And the angel will go and tell them, just forgive yourself. And it's okay. There's no judgment here.
Hardest one.
You have to judge yourself. You judge yourself.
Yes, true.
And if you don't like yourself here, you're not going to like yourself over there. So
get off your own back, people. Get off your own back. You got to do it. We're here as souls to learn. And if there is, you know where the young souls are? The young souls are swinging off the back of yachts and getting drunk and plowing into trees and marrying 15 times, and you know, the money and the gambling and the thing. They haven't learned yet. They haven't learned, not even enough to have that memory, right?
That's
Everybody else, everybody's sitting here wondering and trying to learn. It's an old soul.
So what we have in some investigations, you have entities that don't want to be on that side because it's too judgmental on them. They have to judge themselves. So if they don't like themselves, they're not going to go over there. So they hang around. But at the same time, you don't lose your memory. You don't lose your personality. Nothing like that is lost. So if you don't like yourself here, that carries with you. That lowers your frequency. The idea here is on Lynn's show, we talked about this, about nurturing. And that nurturing comes from that side just as well as it does come from here. And that's how we spread the light, the love, is through nurturing. And
care and absolutely, and caring for others. And, you know, somebody said something about don't rob somebody of the blessing of caring for a child, caring for an elder, caring for, and they've done that by having, and again, by whatever the manipulation to have us put young little kids in daycare and our elderly in nursing homes. I realize there are exceptions to the rule, but my God, it didn't used to be that way.
No.
You know, oh, sorry.
Oh, no. I'm just saying, sometimes in our society in America, it's contradictory against our best wishes. We want people to be happy and fulfill their destinies, but because of the size of our country, because of the economy in our country, because of a lot of things, we just may not have the ability and that is contradictory to love. That's contradictory to love. And I just want people to know that you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself in your own religion, but in the end game, if it's not about love or nurturing out of love, then that's
so true.
That's not going to get you anywhere.
So true.
Okay, go ahead,
so
Lynn.
true.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
So true.
I was going to ask Cisco to finish the other part of that story with her dad about the other part of the story that you didn't add about when you started sending your dad love, which is significant to this. It is
right a validation indeed. Good call. Yes. So that's exactly what I did. I just started doing funny, odd stuff, in the car, singing and sending happy thoughts and energies up specifically to his name, in his name, and connected and sent love all out, and pets and everything else. I do this, and I'll say funny story. Even if I didn't have very much to connect the thought and the memory, all of the sensory to it, the heart, the memory, the using the brain to picture it, the whole shebang, and sent all of that way. So over months of doing this and other stuff, I kind of side-handedly bumped into this medium, and it wasn't a scheduled thing or anything. And we sat down, we're having a talk, and then all of a sudden she goes, your mother's energy here, she's just gonna, so can we bring her in? I'm like, absolutely. We bring in Mom, and we talked, and she got some very important stuff out there. She always gives me snippets, which is great. Do it on your own now. And I'm like, gee, thanks, So anyway, they are.
Yeah.
There's a man here and he's in a uniform. Now, when he first came, when she had him by the collar and bringing him up, he couldn't speak and he had his head down, and she says, he can't talk. She goes, I'll help him. I want to finish what she came to talk about. Originally. He comes through, and he was World War II. He was Anzio. He was North Africa. And he came back shell-shocked, and a wonderful gambler. Wonderful alcoholic, great date. You don't want to marry him. So anyway, he found something to be proud of, and he appeared in full Class A dress with his medals, his head held up, and he was able to speak one sentence. And he said, I said, well, who is it? Because at this point, after everything she said, could have been my uncle or my dad. I needed to be sure. She said, if he was here, he would not have been a good example for your sons. And I said, hi, Dad. But it worked, Dr. Mike. It worked.
Sending him the love. Yeah. It raised his vibration.
Incredible, I think.
Yeah. Now, I just want to point this out because we are a melting pot of different ideas and convoluted ideas and stupid ideas. All the other forms of civilization, especially in the Asian world and the American Indian world, they respected their ancestors. Yes. And they used to have plaques, and they still have photographs of people that have died, their relatives that have died and gone on. And they talk to them like they are in the room.
Yes.
And
so
they say, don't disrespect our ancestors, don't do that. But we don't really do that. See, we have this Greco-Roman idea that if we just, they're dead, we just put them in the ground and we just go on. There's no, we sever that connection. When in all the other civilizations, they give respect to their father, their mother, their aunts, their uncles, and they ask them for wisdom, you see. And the idea is, if you don't like your life in now, then change it.
Yes.
Because when you get to a certain point, you're going to say, oh man, I really screwed that up. Oh man, I just regret. And regret is the most devastating force that anyone can ever go up against. If you see an opportunity to better yourself, to encourage others, to nurture not only yourself but others, Take that opportunity, because down the road, when you get your life review, you're going to say, oh man, I was such an idiot. I'm such, and I could have done better. I should have done this. I should have done that.
I should have gave that compliment, told that person I cared, said I was sorry, helped the pet, took in the person, all of these things, like Lynn and I believe Dr. Mike, you are too, with Daniel Brinkley, who was hit twice with lightning.
Lightning was the first time, but he had three other.
Incredible. And he kept going. And if you know Daniel, because Daniel and I are very big into the hospice and, and Lynn and everything, we all, his story is amazing. But the most amazing story Daniel has ever told, and that's saying something, because he's got them from, I won't say where, but I'm a soldier myself. So, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but anyway, his biggest regret, and it could have been anything from the war as a soldier, which, I deal a lot with ghosts that are in battlefields, that regret, that fear, that anxiety, there's so much to unravel there. It was because he hit a dog on the way to a party, and he can remember making that conscious choice, free will choice, to go ahead and go to the party. No, I killed it. It's dead. I'm not going to go back and check. He said that was the final one that turned him around. Yeah. That was the one that turned him into the man he is now, because even all those NDEs wasn't enough. He, for a little while, and it would wear off. You know the stories.
Yeah. Daniel says he's as hard-headed as they come. You've got to really shake him up for him to get
Incredible.
it, for him to get it. Yeah. Remember in the New Testament, they talk about a jailer who fell asleep. Yes. And it was Paul. Was it Paul? And he was in prison.
Help us out, chat. Yeah. Paul was in prison. He wrote a lot of letters.
There was an earthquake. There was an earthquake, and the cell doors come open, and the jailer really didn't wake up. And you sit there and go, wow, but Paul realized what was going on. And then sometimes you need an earth-shaking experience. Yeah.
And it's never the one, Dr. Mike, though. And no. Lynn, I know you're going to, it's not the one you think. It's like I talk about all the time. The 5 people you meet in heaven. I don't know if you've read the book or if you watched the movie. But it's what we're talking about. Okay. Because as he died, when he passes, a good man, by everybody's accounts, you would imagine, his life, as he goes through his steps in heaven, as he's brought through, he's met by certain different guides.
Correct.
And these are people he met throughout life. And the 5 people he met before he got to the one who was the love of his life, and his wife, of course, was there to greet him. They had to tell him why.
Right.
His brief time with them meant so much, or what he did to change them and direct them in their lives. And it kicked off like that pebble, that ripple in the pond.
That's right. One drop can create a tsunami.
Yep.
Giving the opportunity to make that change. And that is what all ascended masters talk about. That's what Martin Luther King talked about, Jesus, Buddha. We can go down the list. Now,
so many.
There's so many. And then you have
Confucius, Sun Tzu. My gosh, we could go on all night.
Go on. I know. We go on listen.
But it's all connected. But it's all so connected. Many of my elders, Cochise and Tecumseh, and so many different elders that spoke throughout, spoke of these times many moons ago, I assure you. And it's the same, and it's very much almost in parable, many of them. The way they speak, there's so many hidden in between the lines.
That's right. Jesus, his best sermons were in parables.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everyone says, well, why didn't he just say it straight out? Well, you wouldn't believe him if he said it straight out. There's some things that we learn easier through storytelling. And all of our history for several thousand years has been nothing but stories passed down, related to. And it's just been in the last maybe 200 years, 300 years that we, when we developed the books, well, that people could read the stories. They didn't have to be told. And we lost something. there.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. I'm Lenape in Cherokee with a little bit of Scotch. It's like my daddy. And so,
hard
you know,
Scotch.
literally,
I think it's hard Scotch.
I assure you, literally.
And she's a
So,
redhead.
God's like,
Oh,
oh, Jersey
double-
redhead,
That's a
Army
double
baby.
sign. That's
Yep,
a
yep.
stop sign right there for most people.
Yep. So, you know, and that's just the way we are here on the podcast too. It's like, you know, I Lynn laughs at me because I'm going, we're way past do ghosts exist. We're way past,
Yes.
you know, was
Right,
Oswald the
right.
only shooter? We're way past all that stuff. We are just, you know, it's so amazing to be in this for like 50 years, you know, all of us, so many decades, our own
Yeah.
personal lives, so many people in the chat, our own personal lives. And we cannot understand why people still are so separated on something, as you spoke in the very
Yeah.
beginning, so
Yeah.
normal,
Yeah.
so normal. Why throw out an orb? Hold on a minute. You're throwing out the
Really?
baby with the bathwater. Some,
That's
you know,
right.
we have wonderful
Exactly.
guests on the show here. Rob Guttrow's got a wonderful one. He was doing some almost like a crime scene investigation, talking to a couple of victims who were trying to tell them as they could why ghosts can't just spit it out. That's one question I can't answer for you. It comes in dribs and drones and pops, and there's reasons, multiple reasons. There's not one reason for that. But, you know, they're trying to hurry up. They have to go because he's coming. Why? Because they're talking about him and he hears them. We said this on the show last week. We were talking about John Wilkes Booth shows up at the gift shop at Ford's Theater because people are talking about him.
Yeah. Jesus said, call my name and I will be there.
I will be there.
Yeah.
And our loved ones, same.
Same.
You know,
Same.
many stories, right, Lynn, of
Yes.
mentioning a loved one, or, you know, they
Absolutely.
come back and they tell you, I was there when you were talking about me and
Mhm.
watching
Yeah.
the show. You know,
Yeah.
I was right behind you, or
Right.
it's
Right.
it's so amazing, and yet they won't. People have a hard time, Dr. Mike, thinking of the flip side is true.
Well, because
Why
they,
is this? They'll think that the good can come through. They
Mhm.
don't
Yeah.
understand that the bad works the same way. My elders tell me,
Similarly.
don't speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
Similar.
you know, don't speak of them. They
Mhm.
can hear you
Mhm.
of things that live in the woods, elementals and different things, Bigfoot,
Right.
whatever.
Oh, yes. Yes.
people have been made
Speak
to
on that.
be
Right.
afraid. People have been made to be afraid
Right.
of them.
That's right. Sorry.
Mhm.
Right.
Go ahead.
This side.
It's
Okay.
okay.
Good,
Our,
We're good.
I'm sorry. That is correct. We have been cloistered.
Mhm.
We have been put into a box, and several of these persons claim that you have to go through them to reach enlightenment or spirituality.
Oh, I love
When-
that he just said that.
Me too.
when-
I love that he just said that. I've been saying this for 35 years.
Now,
The
now,
biggest lie you've ever been told.
Yep.
right? It is, and it's for a reason of control.
And money.
It is not for your benefit. It is not
Mhm.
for your happiness. It's not.
Mhm.
It's for you to live in fear and doubt all
Yep.
your
Mhm.
life. Okay. And what does fear and doubt really do? Well, it keeps you from asking big questions
Mhm.
because they don't know themselves, and they won't tell you, even if they did know, because they want you coming back every week to get just a tidbit more,
Mhm.
and then that's the whole thing. That is the
Mhm.
whole thing. It's become. I don't want to say this really straight out, but spirituality has become weaponized,
Yes.
Mhm.
We agree with you.
Mhm.
and
Yes.
we are the cannon fodder.
Mhm.
And if you think that a religion really cares for you, you are
Mhm.
poorly mistaken. It
So,
doesn't.
sorely mistaken. No,
It's
we-
self-serving.
absolutely
Yep, it's about the
believe that
money.
here, and we say it here, and we said it in the beginning when Peter was asking about the angels. I've had multiple people on here that stay in that frequency and speak via angels. You have many mediums who just stay in that frequency, I assure you, and don't
Right.
even
Oh, yeah.
you know, and there's reasons for this. So again, don't let them tell you that you don't have a guardian angel, you don't have this, or you can't go
Right.
in with, you know, and speak Archangel Michael prayer when you're helping to cleanse a house because you feel that that's what you're going to do. Do that, bang a gong, sing, like I said, Jeremiah was a bullfrog, whatever you want to do, as long as you
I like this
believe
song.
it and you're going to do it. I bring it all. I mean, I've had people tell me, because people are so afraid to say that if you believe in God or you believe in creator or great spirit, whatever source, if you and I bring it all. I would be an absolute fool to walk on a battlefield with the amount of ghosts, and not only ghosts, but I assure you, entities that do not want you to help them cross, because they're the loosh that they're getting off of the suffering and the looping and even the residual energy.
So
and
true.
aliens, both good and bad. Everything
we'll get
is
to
there.
them. We'll get to them
Everything
in a
is
second.
there.
Yes. Now, but I can tell you, and I can tell you this 1,000 times. If you go to Gettysburg, you're going to find soldiers still fighting that battle.
Absolutely. I've crossed them.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
At midnight on Halloween in the field by myself. So,
right.
Just so you know.
So you're sitting
incredible,
there.
Incredible place.
They haven't forgiven themselves.
I know.
They're
I
still
know.
in this dichotomy of who's right, who's wrong.
So many levels, though.
And
so
like
many.
I said, we're cannon fodder in this spiritual battle. The whole idea is that it is not, you're not winning souls through fear and damnation. What you're doing is you're isolating the mindset so that it doesn't ask spiritual questions.
Who was it? Is everybody okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. It wasn't me.
Any parts we need fall off there? Sounded like stuff. Are you okay, Lynn?
Yeah, actually, my daughter knocked a glass
That's
ball
fine.
off of a
As
table.
long as you're, as long as you're good.
It's explainable. We're all good.
Okay.
Good. But yeah, it's nuts. But like, even if you go back to Gettysburg, that is a perfect example of showing so many different things, because I've seen everything there from soul recognition, meaning one person going up and getting an EVP. Hello, General.
Yeah.
And that person getting the dreams after, realizing, almost having a self, going back and seeing a past life, and, proof showing up and things, just amazing stuff. And going there, and right in front of you are intelligent earthbound who stayed because they don't want to leave the others. You've got others in an agitated state going back and forth. Then you've got the residual energy, and you have the ones that are so sick and tired, Dr. Mike, having hour after hour after hour of people coming through. What was the war like? What's it feel like to be shot?
Touch Blinky.
Oh gosh, so many. And I'm
like
just
trained monkeys.
Boys, I'm a soldier. I'm here to properly relieve you from duty. Anybody want to talk to me? Here we go. Dowsing rods. Things start lighting up. Bung, 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 intent. And I'm telling you, you just gotta. They know you're coming. Their spirit guides, but with your stuff, it's trust me, people.
Have you ever played that old game Telephone, where you whisper something in somebody's ear and they pass it on and you get down to about the 10th person? Well, in the afterlife, they don't screw up the message.
Like we do.
So I'll be sitting here planning a trip. I'm planning a road trip to Gettysburg or someplace like that. And my ghosts, my angels and guides are sitting there going, "Oh, Mike's going to the Crescent Hotel in Arkansas, or Gettysburg, or that hotel in Chicago that's highly haunted." And then they go, "Okay, we're going to go there now."
Yes.
And we're going to prepare a path for him so he is not attacked or attached or abused while he's there. And now a lot of people say, "Oh, Mike, that's just, poppycock. That's just silly stuff."
True.
And I'm sitting there going,
"It is true."
Going, no, it is not. It's not
true.
It's not poppycock. That's what they signed up to do. In the afterlife,
absolutely,
there's a lot of spare time. And even though you can watch whatever you want to watch and do whatever you want to do, they end up, a large percentage of them say, "Oh, well, Mike's an idiot, so we need to go down and make sure he doesn't kill himself or protect, whatever."
Right.
And then that's the way they look at us. Now, when you get to the extraterrestrials, okay, now Lynn and I have talked about this a little bit before. They ride the same wavelength as
They do.
ghosts themselves. So
It's so wild. Yeah.
Bigfoot too. Yep, all of them.
oh yeah, and so yeah, Bigfoot's an extraterrestrial. I hope everybody knows
Yes,
that.
he is.
But anyway, okay.
I was always told they were half here by my elders. My grandmother used to say they're half here, half in the spirit world. That was her way of telling me that they can come in and go
Through portals.
as they will.
Yeah.
She didn't use the word portals though. She was amazing how they explained it
Mhm.
in how they believed. Half here and half in the spirit world, and come and go. And then she told me I don't want them to take you with them. And then she shut up and wouldn't tell me anymore. How about that?
If I told you that Bigfoot was on 20 other planets, people would just say, "Oh, that's crazy, Mike." I was like, "No, they're on 20 other planets,
I mean,
plus ours, plus their
I've
home
got-
planet, plus the original planet."
I've got the whole thing of, who am I to, you know what I mean? I've learned over the past couple of decades, there's so much more wild stuff out there. I'm like, okay, because it just all snaps together. And I think it has something to do with our consciousness is obviously changing. Everybody can feel it. I mean, there's something going on, and you can, again, I'll explain it like the stand. There's people like going toward this way and people going this way, dark and light. It just comes down to dark and light. There's lots of different shades of light in between. But it comes down to
a lot
that,
of gray.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gray.
of that.
Yeah. But the idea is to forgive yourself now, reduce your regrets. Reduce your regrets as much as possible. And when Daniel goes and works in hospice, he sits there and he works with these people so that they can release. They're not afraid.
Yes.
They've forgiven everybody. And things like that. And the problem is, there's a lot of problems in our society, but the problem is a lot of people say, well, good riddance, Grandpa died. Now pull out his will and see how much I get.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's so materialized, but I think that's the materialization. We almost touched on it earlier when we were talking about, the young souls are swinging off the back of yachts and at the gamble, and do whatever. There is an absence of being. And an absence of being, they've separated us, tried to separate us from our light. They've fluoridated our pineal gland. They've tried to tell you can't see ghosts. You can't, you can't go with your intuition. You can't feel that way. They've separated you from all of that, right? And then they tell you to fill it with stuff you can order off Amazon.
Right.
And you're trying to fill this void. You don't feel at home. You don't feel right because they've separated you from family and your trades and your village when, everybody just lived by what their character was. If a woman was a good warrior, that's what she was. If you were a good hunter, that's what you did. And everybody cared for everyone.
Yeah.
And now they've got us separated in boxes.
Yeah, Lynn was talking about her son looking at a vacuum cleaner as a toy, and and I said, "There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a woman shooting a gun. Most advertising for weapons is a woman shooting a gun. So what's the difference?
You got to convince me, honey.
Yeah, and what they should be an advertisement with a man with a vacuum cleaner saying, this is great. This is lightweight. This is lightweight and doesn't suck, or sucks too much or whatever.
Right.
But the idea is that, see, we're still trying to live up to these old fashioned, keep them in the box, keep them in their own lane mentality. And that's not the way it is.
And you got to keep up with the Joneses. You got to have all this instead of fulfilling yourself through your work and your hands and your creativity and your family and your nourishment. You're caring for each other and wisdom from the old people and old people caring for the young. It's just, we miss all that.
We're missing it because we don't have family units like we used to. Where Grandpa and Grandma lived 4 or 5 blocks up the street, and Uncle Jim was 2 miles out of town on his ranch or whatever. We're missing that family dynamic, and that family dynamic kept us straight because my mom would come over and slap me or slap your hand, don't do that or whatever.
Right.
But now you have young kids like you were talking about, but they're looking for surrogate families, surrogate relationships. They've lost that connection with their own society, and now it's all for me, none for you. I'm going to get.
talk to each other anymore. We're scared to
Right.
talk to each other over
Yeah.
the fence and
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
bring a
we don't.
Jello mold and play poker. Do you remember the card tables?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
My dad.
yeah,
Yeah.
everybody had a card table. Why? Because
Canasta,
everybody came across.
Bridge.
The
bridge.
Johnsons are
Yeah.
coming over. You got to
Sure.
make the martinis, get the
Sure.
card table out, get
Sure.
the chairs.
Okay. Let me just tell you something funny about all that. All those people had expendable income.
Yes. How'd this happen?
Yeah. And they put it in the bank and they saved up. And they went to their neighbors, their friends, and they sat around and they jumped into each other's pools and drank their martinis and they had a good time. And they had expendable income. Right. On one income. Right. Right. And then all of a sudden they got it in their idea, if we print more money
And credit cards.
Yeah. And credit cards.
Just keep
And then
doing it.
and then it reduces its value because the money is only based
credit
on
cards. Or
and-
like Satan is down there with the machine just laughing and churning those things out. Do you remember when I owe my soul to the company stove?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Back
Deeper
in the day?
debt. Yeah.
This was it. You worked for the factory. You lived in the factory town. You
That's
bought
what
in
we
the
have
factory
become.
store. Oh my
It's
gosh.
slavery. It's
Yeah, it
slavery
is. It is.
or prison work,
Yep.
because even in several prisons around America, people work for 17 cents an hour,
Yep. It's true.
which is the same as a third world country. So I'm sorry, I didn't wear one, but you can buy a 100% silk necktie made from Cambodia.
Oh gosh, honey, there's more slavery going on right now as we're speaking than has
Exactly.
ever happened in the world, and it's in recorded history
And
right
we-
now. Not when Rome was not right now.
Yeah. Okay. When Rome was in its heyday, you had 8 slaves per every person. Okay. And if you look around, we've eliminated those slaves, but replaced them with your washer and dryer and dishwasher and your car and and your
The tractor and the corn tiller and the hay baler. The whole thing.
The Amazon Echo could play anything you want. You can go get a computer and get on YouTube and listen to all the music in the world. iHeartRadio.
It's nuts how fast.
But does that make you a better person?
No.
And
because we're wearing sneakers sewed in factory and we ignore it.
That's right.
And we ignore what's happening to the Uyghurs. We ignore what's happening in Tibet. And we ignore what's happening around the world and what's happening to these kids. And just going right on. Well, you paying attention yet?
Yeah.
I think we are. I think we are. Little by little.
Well, some of us are, but they call us
little by little.
Or progressives. It's like, why? Do you want to be in the 1800s all your life? Do you want to remove penicillin from the shelf? I mean, come on, get with it. We have got to be progressive. Our society demands that we have clean air and fresh air and clean water and a good education. Our society demands these basic utilities.
Yet we don't have it.
It's the same as having a sewer system. It's like one day you wake up and you go, "Oh, we don't have any sewers." Well, what's a sewer? I don't know.
The bridge is collapsing and the roads are falling apart. And
a lot of bridges in my neck of the woods were built in the WPA. We got something for our money. When the WPA was operational, we got opera houses and we got justice buildings and they're built better today than they were 5 minutes ago. You see what I'm saying? They were built to last. Okay.
I remember the Maytag repairman.
Yeah.
Because your washing machines lasted for 25 years. Everybody used to say, I'll tell you, all the Italian aunts in my back end family would sit in that daggum, avocado green kitchen with turquoise eyeshadow and tell you that they are proud owners of a washing machine they've had for 30, 35 years.
My mom had
that anymore.
My mom had a General Electric refrigerator that would not die. And my dad got so mad at it after 35 years. He says, we need a bigger refrigerator. So he just took it out. We went and bought a brand new one. And the new one kept dying. Okay, it died in 10 years. We got another one. Yep. That one died in 6 years. We got another one. And it's planned obsolescence.
Well, it's also,
because they know that.
It's a psychological, they're not hitting you with the neurolinguistic, stuff. They're hitting you with the
Right.
slow boiling of the frog of, well, we'll just replace it.
Yeah.
You got a husband you don't like, we'll just replace it.
That's
Well,
right.
not very
Yeah.
long ago, people used to stay together for 30, 50,
Yeah.
75
Yeah.
years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kids, you're too busy. Well, put them in daycare. Because you got to drive that car. You got to have the bigger house. When
Mhm.
two people
Mhm.
live in a house, you don't even know you're home
Right.
because
right.
it's so big. I've
Big.
never seen anything like it.
And
In how
everybody-
many decades? Gone from 5 people living in a 1-room cabin to
Everybody's looking on their cell phone. You can't sit there and watch a TV
It's
program
programming.
because
It's
because
programming.
everybody's
That's why it's called programming. That's why it's
Sure.
called spelling.
Yeah.
That's why it's called. And again, the energy. How do you think it affects your energy? Right now, you're sitting in so many radio waves. So many things
right.
are going
Yeah.
right straight through you.
80,000. 80,000.
Constantly.
Even if you're in a Faraday cage, you still get about 30,000 microwave signals going through your body.
It's insane.
So
It's insane.
So people talk about how rough today is. That is because it's a construct that we have made it that way.
Mhm.
You have made it that way because you're lazy and
Mhm.
you don't want to turn your TV channel like in the old
Mhm.
days. You want to sit in your lazy boy and
With the button.
with the button and then now we have Roku and now we have Netflix.
Now you can
and now
just
you have-
tell Alexa to lock your front door.
That's right.
Yes.
Lock your
That's right.
things. It's your whatever. And they make it sound so convenient. It's so
Yeah.
cool to be sitting
Yeah.
at the bar and, oh, I forgot to turn the faucet off in the
Yeah.
kitchen.
Yeah.
And but again, you think it's cool.
Right.
But not only are you losing more things that you do as a person,
Right.
because a regular human being used to have to walk around the house. And do you remember Dad checking all the windows before
Yeah,
you went to bed? It was
sure.
part of the job. You checked
Lock
the
the
doors.
doors. I still do that. I lock,
Responsibility.
yeah.
They're taking all of that slowly away. They did the same with religion, with it, the same with your construct of what you can believe or know
Mhm.
that you have the power to do. And what Dr. Mike and Lynn and people like them and across the board have been saying for decades,
Yeah.
you're the power.
Right.
How much are we water? And
Yes.
how much does emotion and energy, different energies affect water? We talked about it a couple weeks ago, Lynn, with
Mhm.
the doctor, is it Mayu? The water experiments where he spoke certain words to the
Emoto.
water.
Yeah,
Say it
Emoto.
again. Thank you.
Emoto. Yeah,
Thank you.
Emoto is his last
It's
name.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Back in the 70s, he wrote the book about plants.
Yes.
If plants were intelligent.
Yes.
And everyone just, threw that out. Well, let me just tell you this. Okay, a few years ago, it's been many years ago now because we went through COVID and that's like amnesia. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
but someone I said, well, what about tarot cards? I said, has anyone ever done a comprehensive study on tarot cards? Oh, Mike, that is such a waste of time. That's just all poppycock. They just make that stuff up as they go along. Well, maybe I told Lynn this. I'm not sure. But anyway, so I did a study. I was studying tarot card readers. I took 10 tarot card readers from all across the world. I just looked them up on YouTube, plugged in Virgo because that's kind of my sign. And I said, let me just check this out. So I selected 10. I selected 10 tarot card readers, all with the same deck of cards. And then I would watch them every time they came out. I didn't subscribe. I didn't try to alter the test with, preconceived ideas. I just sit there and said, okay, let's just watch this. So over the first 3 years, out of the 12 cards that they picked, 4 were identical. Okay.
Wow.
So there's 10 people, Australia, England, America, Canada, Boise, Idaho, which is probably a foreign country by now. And they are reading these tarot cards, right? Okay. So I went from 10 down to 5. I cut it down because of time constraints. And then I kept going. And then these 5 started pulling exactly the same cards. And sometimes it would go up to 6 out of the 12. Now, the only thing that changed was their interpretation of when the cards came out. Okay. So after a while, a couple more years go by. After a while, I had tarot card readers going on YouTube saying, such and such tarot card reader is stealing my readings. And I want everyone to know that they're stealing my readings. And I'm sitting there laughing at this because they're not stealing your readings. They're getting the same information.
Mm-hmm.
And so you look at the collective subconscious, the collective unconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really kind of what tarot is. It's kind of a Rorschach test of what do you see and how do you interpret it. But you can't have 4 or 5 tarot card readers pulling the same information under the same sign consistently for 5 years.
That's not.
The odds are astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at this collective subconscious, which you have to do, you sit there and say, these guys are tapping in not only to the same information, their subconscious is pulling the same cards.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go through, if you look up tarot card readers on YouTube, you'll see that the titles like money coming your way, health and wealth are coming your way. And you'll notice the titles almost are identical.
Right.
And no one even took a look at this. I'm sitting there going, no, this is the greatest indicator, because when we have machines all over the United States, and they're called random generation machines. Mm-hmm. And a couple of hours before 9/11, it happened in New York. The random generation machines went straight up, made a big curve, and then they started to come down a little. Okay, that was 2 hours before the towers fell. Okay, so somehow in the psyche, in the unconscious mind, we already knew what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's the whole key. There are waves out there that we create, that are being created, and even through our devices now, we can receive that energy, and then we can say, okay, something's going to happen. And we may not know what it is. It could be an earthquake, tsunami,
exactly,
whatever.
Just like multiple friends before 9/11 and other things like that for weeks before. Right. Knew that something was going to happen. The world's making a fist, something big, didn't quite know what. Others had a little bit more direction than others, but everybody at the same time was feeling this. And I believe it's that collective consciousness. Right. That, that also, I can tell you, groups can get together and direct weather or push away a storm.
Art Bell did that.
Absolutely.
Art Bell made it rain. He went on his radio show and he said, if I just had 1,000 people, he goes, I don't care if you think about it, pray about it, talk about it, just direct it, have it rain.
This is why healing works. Healing could we do it here all the time. Somebody needs healing, we send it, and I've had mediums get on here, and as soon as the chat opens up, I'm going, well, there you go. Boom. One of them almost fell out of her chair. Do you remember that chat? It was just like everybody just said her all this love, because the big thing here is light working. We all know we're here for a reason for this time. Right. Most people here feel like they were probably incarnated to be here in this time to do something, whether even it's just to keep the lights on like Motel 6, because you have to have that balance, but there's so much more, because when you collect that energy, I can tell you, when I was looking through your YouTube videos, Dr. Mike, and again, load that up again, mods, get over there and subscribe, and you can actually go through his videos and pick what interests you and go in the back door, the side door, go around the front porch, but it's all in there lined up in the videos that explains energy and everything else that's connected, even brain and brain waves and everything.
Exactly.
The reason that introduces me so much is my son has a TBI. He has a traumatic brain injury. Right. And he was in a car accident, and I can't tell you the damage beyond belief, everything. And right away I started, okay, I'm talking to my guy, I'm talking to everything, I'm pulling everything I know, and I knew energy, I know speak extrasensory across the board, okay, everything. We did touch therapy, smell therapy. I read to him like he was there. I demanded everybody that was in that room speak to him as if he can hear you, and give a pause. Don't come in here with this rattle and scream and stuff. Right from the beginning. If you saw him today, you would not be able to tell that anything of this ever happened, because we took every bit of energy that was spoken in his name and put it on him, Dr. Mike,
Right.
with my niece, who believes like I do. You could feel it. And I actually have medical evidence that the doctor, before, he had a 15% chance of making it at the bed check the night before, he went up 85%. That is more than significant.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, everyone says, well, yeah, maybe it could have happened, naturally. Maybe this could, but, I could take Carillion photography. I can take an EEG or Carillion photography. I can take there's a multitude of ways of showing how the energy is translating through their body. And I want to bring up this one last thing. Daniel Brinkley now runs around and hugs everybody. He's a big hugger. He's a big hugger, and he just says, and there have been gurus come over from India, and they rent out ballrooms in New York City, and there were 5,000 people lined up just to get a hug from this guru.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. You're hugging yourself.
The idea of not only the transfer of energy, but the way it comes back to you, the energetic state of it is highlighted in Carillion photography. And they have taken people, and they put their finger on the pad, and their aura or their aurora is very low, very low. And they'll drink ionized water, or they'll get hugged, or they'll get prayed for, and you'll see that energy just glow, 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 and get bigger and bigger. And we know that they're receiving it. That's how we know they're receiving that information.
It's incredible.
If we didn't have just these basic things, now we can take a blood test, we can take several other tests, and you can sit down and say, wow, something's changing here. Now, there's a lot of doctors out there who say, well, maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, we don't know. But that's not what they're there for. They're there to force a pill down you. Now, what I'm getting to is that this is energy medicine. This is not pharmaceutical medicine, you see. And energy can override, because what are you doing? You're talking to the consciousness. You're talking to you, who you are, what you are. And that energy flows. Okay. Birds can't fly not unless they have the air to fly in, the medium of energy to give them lift. Okay. A fish can't swim not unless he's in a medium that supports him to breathe and swim.
Right.
Okay. So as there's air around us and water around the fish, there's also an energy layer there that supports consciousness. And that is why we can see these orbs, these mists, these full-bodied apparitions, because they're in an energy field that keeps them stable.
And I believe that's almost why they're round, and why things in the universe is round. It's just this, you know what I mean? It's almost a natural formation in the flow of things. And that's why I always believed in orbs. I mean, I've seen pictures of orbs. A famous one was Sharon Tate. She was actually not in the house, because the house doesn't exist anymore. There's another house on CeeLo Drive. But there's a famous picture of her where they were, I believe it's her. It's an orb. And they got an EVP. They called her in, first of all. I think she's passed. The orb had two. Do you know what I mean? It's like an orb with it, because she was pregnant.
Yeah. And I've seen three connected.
Yes.
Three connected. Okay. Now there's an old haunted house not too far from where I live, and you'll see it on my video page. It's like 30 minutes long, and it's called Halloween show, Dave Glover show, or something like that. Halloween special. And it's 30 minutes of just music, but it's all of the ghosts that are there. Now, every white dot you see is a ghost. And when we first investigated that house 10 or 15 years ago, there was what we call a colony. and this colony was just a cluster of orbs, and they would just fly around together like a school of fish. Think of it like a school of fish.
Yes. Oh, what a great way of putting that. Yes.
Okay. And then, well, we went back again a few years ago, and guess what? There's 10 times as much. The colony was almost as tall as the house.
They collect each other, don't they?
That's
like
right.
misery
loves company.
see?
They share that energy. They share their energy. Okay.
Absolutely, Lynn. Yeah.
Now the guy who was the host of this radio show that I was there for, he kept saying, "What do you see, Lynch? What do you see?" It was like, man, I can't tell you what I see because I have no words to describe what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing hundreds of entities. Now, by the time we got done, I had videotaped 1,700 different entities, and there were 1,900 on the property.
Wow.
So we did a good job. We did a good job. Now, we didn't go all over the property. We just stayed around the house. But so when people come to me and they say, well, man, I haven't caught anything. Okay, this happened to me again. There was another team. They wanted to partner up with my team. And I go, okay, we'll do that. We go into this house. It's an old bed and breakfast. And they go, man, we don't get anything. We haven't gotten anything all night. You know, none of our motion detectors worked. None of our still photography worked. You know, and they had some other stuff that was supposed to get EVPs and they didn't get worked. So I said, okay, that's okay. That's fine with me. I walk outside. I take my Canon Super Shot 30, S30, Canon S30. It's a little digital camera. And I just go out into the yard and I just start taking pictures. Click, 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 click. And there they were. These orbs were looking in through the windows. They were about 10 feet above the ground, looking at all the spectators that was going on. And I started laughing. And I said, well, they're not here because they don't like you. They don't want you in their property, you know.
I tell people that all the time. Lynn and I say this, and people say, I said, they know you're coming. They're out there.
Right.
They've gone somewhere else. They're not going to talk in your camera. They're not going to do your thing. And I can tell you, you got to come to the Hoover House. This is one of these places. It's in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. Come to the bash. I'll talk to you afterwards because you're coming back on the show again. But this is one of these places where you can do an experiment about the guides. I wanted to make sure you got this in because Lynn knows exactly what I'm talking about how our guides get together when they know that you're coming. These guides get together with the spirits of this house, which is a beam of light. It's more of a vortex than a portal. And the only reason I'm saying it that way, it's because it's this constant beam of light. And these spirit guides will get together and they know that the people are coming to this bed and breakfast.
That's right.
They show up 4 or 5 days before and they say, oh no, we're okay. We're here. We're waiting for Sammy, whatever. And Jim. Okay. Because they don't know they're coming yet. They think they're going over here to Gettysburg or Shiloh or whatever. No, they're coming here to this bed and breakfast because that hotel's we're going to make sure that hotel's vacant or something. You're going to come here. And they'll wait. And the guides will come in and go, yeah, they're still waiting. Oh, they just got a phone call. They are coming. It's so funny. It's an amazing place. It's a wonderful place to do experiments like that. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
You know?
And so as I aged or evolved, I got to tell you another story about Lloyd Auerbach. It's funny. He tells it himself, but he okay, I'll just say it real quick. But anyway, okay, Lloyd goes, I'm going out on this investigation because this house is haunted by this little boy. And he calls up a psychic and he gets they're about an hour away from where this house is. And so Lloyd is driving to this house, right? And so him and the psychic are in the car and they're just talking about the case, you know, what do we want to do first, you know, things like that. And, you know, their plan for the investigation. Well, they get to the house and guess who's waiting at the front door? The little boy. And guess what he said? He goes, I was with you in the car. And the psychic and Lloyd, you know, he goes, whoa, this is blowing my mind, man. And so the psychic goes, yeah, the boy says he was in our car for the last 30 minutes, knows exactly what we're going to do. And he's going to sit over in that chair and leave us alone. Yeah. You know, because they weren't personal. You know, they were treating that boy as vermin. Okay. And you can't do that. Okay. as you evolve, okay, that's one of my funny stories on somebody else. But anyway, as you evolve, as I have, you don't need to go to a place.
Right.
You know, there was a movie producer many years ago. I don't know what he's doing now, but he was making these ghost documentaries, and he was trying to build them up where they're horrifying and scary.
Yeah. Oh,
and they
gosh.
went over to Scotland, and they went to this haunted castle that's been there for 800 years, and there's bound to be a ghost in there. And they went into this castle, and they used all the latest equipment. And he comes back, and he goes, "We didn't catch a thing, but we had to hype it up." And I go, "Well, why did you go over there?" Well, he couldn't really explain it. It was just an exotic location. So I go, "Okay, fine." So I walk out of my backyard, and every time I build a new piece of equipment, I got to test it. Well, I just go out in my backyard, and if I see something, I see something. If I don't, I don't. You see what I'm saying? But I don't have to go to a haunted location anymore because I know what I'm looking for. So there was a friend of mine, and she needed an investigation. So I went over. Okay. And I took a couple of pictures, and there was an orb in her dining room. And I said, "Well, that's just a little orb. I wouldn't worry about that." Anyway, so I walked outside, took a few more pictures, and lo and behold, there was probably 100 right there
outside
in her neighborhood, you know, just walking up and down the street, just in her neighborhood. Between the homes and stuff like that.
I love how you explained like that, you'd almost like a school of fish, because again, they're just connecting onto what's working for them right now. And I think when they come out, different ones come out and, you know, might be attracted to your energy because you're going through the same thing, something similar that is familiar that they went through, an energy that resonates with them, and they pop out for a minute, and that's when you might get these EVPs and connection, or they stay with you.
Absolutely.
And so I was talking to one psychic, and so I'm taking some pictures, right? And I get about 4 or 5 ghosts in this one house. And I said, her name is Cynthia Fay. She's a real nice psychic. Anyway, she works with angels. And so anyway, we're talking, and I said, "Well, Cynthia," I said, "how many ghosts do you think are here? How many entities are here?" And she goes, "There's 6." And I said, "Well, man, that's kind of strange. I only got 4 on video, so we'll wait. You know, we'll wait a little bit." And sure enough, a couple of extra come into the room, and it was as if, she was talking about them, but it was as if they understood, and they come in. Right. There's another one. Okay, this is what shocked me the most of any of my investigations. We went to an old abandoned school, a haunted school, and the building was built back in the 50s, but there's been no school in there for several years, about 20 years. So we go in there, and sure enough, we see all these little orbs bouncing around, running, you know, up and down the hallways, going back and forth, back and forth. Anyway, so we get up on the stage. They had an old basketball gym and stage up there, and we get up there. Then all of a sudden, it seemed like I don't know if what frame of mind I was in, because I'm really after a shot. I'm after the video. I'm looking at the video, the quality, and all of a sudden, these 2 things just showed up, and they were between us and the entities. And I go, "Oh my God." I said, "Oh my God, this is really strange." Well, anyway, we come to find out later that there were sentinel angels and guardian angels. There are 2 different types. The sentinel angels were like these lifeguards, keeping those children back and protecting us. I asked Jason and Grant one time, "Don't you feel like you're going to get possessed when you go on these investigations?" And they go, "Oh no, we're not worried about it at all." And I'd sit there and go, "Man, if you're not worried about it, then man, you are not thinking clearly."
They're thinking clearly.
You know, especially if something wants to come home with you.
And they know better, because there was stuff before. Yeah. There was stuff they were involved with before that, you know, they regret. There's that word again of not
Yes.
going back and handling things, and they learned from it. But
Right.
you know, again, it happened the other night on my show. Some people, a family having problems, you know, bringing them through, wanted to ask a question. So we brought somebody on the show, and the thing is absolutely, please tell me about it. But the people don't understand why I'm so hard ass about it.
Well, you gotta be. There are
what
rules.
you're doing.
There are rules.
You came into my chat. You gave me permission to look at your energy just by putting your words into the chat. You're talking about an active haunting that's affecting your kids. Now you're talking about it. They hear you. You're feeding them.
Oh.
You brought it in. Your Trojan horse in here. You brought it in here to me. Now, if I agree to help you, guess who's coming to visit me tonight?
Yes, exactly.
This is serious. It's serious.
Yes.
You have to understand the rules, right, Doctor?
Right.
It's true.
Yeah, it's rules. There are rules out there.
I'm not being mean. I'm being careful for your sake as well.
Gotta be. Excuse me. We would tell our clients, when our clients would call us or you know, need something, we would say, okay, we'll show up on Friday, but we're not going to tell you what time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and one time we went over to a place, and this is so funny. And I said, okay, before we go in, I don't want anyone to think about anything. We all have to mentally become neutral.
Uh-huh.
We're just flying by experience. We're not thinking don't think about anything. And it took me years to be able to do that. But anyway, so we opened the door, right? So I turn on all the equipment before we go in. And as soon as the door opens, the client standing at the door, these two orbs come straight at us.
Mm.
They go out in the yard and they spin around and they go right back in the house. And so we get into the house and we don't really find too much. And I said, their attention span is about 15 to 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
They're interested in you. They want to know who's at the front door. They come out and see you. They're kind of like a Labrador retriever, you know, kind of like a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And they're interested in you. They give you a good smell, and then they run off because they don't want to deal. You know, you're not interesting. Yeah, they're
right.
They're not interested.
I think that's so important because you're also talking about an energetic. Yeah, they know, and they're also more energetic. Mm-hmm. I think that's why most people are getting contact with the ones that kind of just hang out in the corner, or I'm in the basement. They're not that zippity doo-dah kind of ghost where they're just. They're more of the lower vibrational being. Mm-hmm. Well, that's just where their minds are at this time. Because I'm telling you, the minute you get them to look up and you connect them to that love energy and that light energy, everything changes.
I can tell you.
Everything changes.
I can tell you some stories that just break your heart. I have a very good friend, and she's a hypnotherapist. Well, this guy comes to her and says, I need a couple of sessions, you know. And she goes, what's wrong? And he goes, well, I've been to every doctor in town, but I think I'm getting bursitis or arthritis. And she goes, okay, we'll check this out. So she sets him up in hypnotherapy, and he's back in it. She had this, like, it wasn't a lazy boy, but it was a very comfortable chair. And she would lean him back, and then she would go through her session. Now, during the session, what she did was she had the man leave his body and look down on his body. And she says, okay, do you see anything there? And he goes, yeah, I see this ball of energy on my shoulder where it hurts. And she goes, that's the shoulder that hurts? And he goes, yeah, that's my shoulder. And he goes, what is that? You know, now he's outside of his body, but he's talking, you know, he's talking to her. And she goes, oh, well, that's an attachment. That's just an attachment. And she goes, I got to get rid of this attachment. So this is where it gets touchy. Now, she doesn't talk to the attachment, okay? And she just says, if there's anyone in heaven that can come down and accept him, mm-hmm. and remove him from this gentleman and go into the light, I would sure appreciate that for this gentleman's sake. Mm-hmm. And then she said, then there was a pause, and the guy goes, wow, he goes up in the corner of the room. He goes, there's this like brilliant light, almost like a portal, mm-hmm. you know? And he says, it's very hard to look at, you know? And then it got quiet again. And then the next thing was the guy goes, there's a voice coming from that light. And she goes, well, what does it say? And he goes, he called the attachment by name.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, come home.
Beautiful.
And that was God.
Mhm.
It's beautiful.
Oh,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I can't
so,
tell you how many stories like that, no matter where we are. You know, Dr. Mike is going at it through his vantage point and his experience.
I'm looking at it this way. That's right.
Hers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm doing, you know, but we're all telling you the same thing.
yeah.
Whether I'm sitting on a rock at Devil's Den trying to help, it's like therapy.
It's cathartic.
To talk to them. I love
Yeah.
you. I have to tell them,
Yeah.
I understand as a soldier, you did what you had to do. You did, you know, again, or a little girl that was drowned by her own mother.
Right.
I'm
Yes.
talking to her.
Yes.
Same thing. What is love? What's love? You have to show them and
That's
connect back into that because it's all connected.
Okay. Talk about connection. Let's just talk connection here. Okay. So we send up rockets that are very expensive. Elon Musk, you know, is building these rockets.
We can afford it. Let them go.
NASA builds the Apollo space thing. You know, these are expensive endeavors for any society. I mean, China's trying to get into it. You know, Russia's trying to get into it. You know, it's very expensive, and it takes a lot of savvy to do that. Okay, so other civilizations have found out that they can not only technical remote view, they can just leave their bodies
and go
and visit any planet that they can survive on. Okay. So there's very little cost to this. Okay. There's very little cost. And they will come down to Earth, you know, outside their body. There's little balls of energy, and they are scoping everything out. Now, we had a friend of mine obtained for a little while $100,000 piece of equipment, and we had it there in his backyard, and we were kind of picking up some ghosts with it. It was a military experiment. So I go, wow, this really is high resolution, and we should be able to get a lot of good evidence. And he goes, yeah, but he goes, maybe they're not old ghosts. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, maybe they're not all ghosts. What if they're not all ghosts? And I just sit back and I go, wow. Okay. Well, sure enough, a few years later, technical remote viewing is publicized. And these guys are going into foreign lands and Russia and Afghanistan, and they're technically remote viewing that environment. They don't really leave their body. But before there was Project Stargate, there was Project Rolling Rock or Rolling Stone. And that's where they put psychics in a lazy boy in the back of a semi truck. And they drove them around to spy on Americans, thinking that since they were in motion, you couldn't go back and find them. And they first started this in a military installation in California. And these psychics were leaving their bodies, going out and spying on other Americans, which I'm totally against. I'm totally against that. But they were doing it.
You like that? How about some MK Ultra for you?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's...
And we can talk for weeks.
Hey, I'll take that LSD just for a vacation.
And jump out a window. We're sorry to the wives and family, though.
Yeah.
You know.
But MK Ultra was not only done in America, it was done in England, and it was done in Australia as well. So they have their own demons to put back in the history books. But what the deal is that they were trying to use psychics to leave their body and spy on people. Okay. And they kind of got to a point to where it was higher than technical remote viewing, but lower than really astral travel. Yeah. So what happens is that it's been proven. Okay. It's been proven that this is a way to obtain information. Fact. There is no guesswork about it. Okay. So I'm sitting there going, yeah, well, if we can do it and our brains are this size, well, an extraterrestrial's brain is a lot larger, and he had got a lot more DNA than we do. He could probably do it naturally on some planet 1,000 light years away. But because because we live in this energy field, which would take a whole nother program to talk about, they can go faster through thought than the speed of light. So radio frequency, just to transmit to Mars takes 20 minutes. So I'm going to transmit an information. You'll download. It'll take 20 minutes. So I'm waiting. I'm looking at my watch. Okay, it's going to be 20 minutes, and then I'll have to wait the response. It's another 20 more. That's 40 minutes, just for an inner planet, right? But if you're using telepathy, it's simultaneous. It's instantaneous communication. So I can ask Lynn, okay, think of what we're doing right here. But just think of it in a telepathic sense. I could ask Lynn a question. She could be on the moon. Cisco could be on Mars. I could ask her a question. And we could be talking in real time.
Like talking on a telephone.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And isn't it odd, though,
and
as you're speaking,
faster than the speed of light.
It's so odd. I'm thinking, isn't that exactly how they say it is on the other side? You just think it is there. You telepathically connect to somebody else because you thought about them. Hey, how you doing? I was thinking of you too. And it's so funny because so many times we've talked over the years about the possibility that some of the ones that are coming here that we would call extraterrestrials or interdimensionals may be us from the future.
No.
Because it seems, I'm just saying, they have talked about it where some of those could have been so out of motion and out all the things that they took away from them, because the stories of them coming back and wanting to know why we have emotion and why we care about a kid or why we care about something else.
Well,
so like they've lost something. But
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're trying to do to us folks with all this stuff. They're trying to think about that pendulum.
They're trying to desensitize us and adjust our priorities.
Yeah.
So our priorities is not family and health and welfare.
Right.
Our priorities is destruction and anxiety.
Mm-hmm. And the biggest, best car, and the biggest
fear.
fast this, and the biggest more that, and I'm what my credit score said. I'm what I drive. I'm how many friends I have on Instagram. Isn't it funny how it's going back in the day when we used to go to the bars in the 70s, whatever, you know, you'd ask what's your sign and this and that, and you know, maybe it's like, what does he do for a living, you know, that kind of thing. And okay, now it's how many followers do you have on Instagram?
Yes. How famous am I? You know, how dramatic can I be? How entertaining can I be? You know, I know I'm the next Cary Grant or Frank Sinatra. I just have to get out there and do it. Well, if you don't work at it, if you don't practice at it,
I think about that all the time.
You're not
the
going to impress
talent,
anybody.
the old movies. We just did Lon Chaney a couple of weeks ago, just like 100 years ago, 123, you know, 1923, 100 years ago. And the entertainment and the work that went into it. He did his own makeup and he did his own this and everything. The talent. And there's that talent still out there. It's just that we're making stupid people famous. You know?
Well, a lot of people don't realize that. I have forgotten the name of this movie, but Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin were in a movie. And that was the very first time that they used the term Ghostbusters. We're Ghostbusters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they said, you've heard about, Union Busters. They go, you've heard about Union Busters. And everybody goes, oh, yeah. Well, we're kind of like Ghostbusters. We go in there and break it up. And, and that sank into a lot of people's subconscious that we could actually affect that world. See, we're being told to leave it alone. So you have no power, you have no effect. And it's like, that is so wrong. Because why? Our energy is the same energy, consciousness as the angels. It's not the same, quite the same, but it is similar. Okay.
Different frequency.
And we have the ability to communicate across the entire universe and all the way to the creator.
Amazing.
And Daniel Brinkley said, this is the funniest quote. I always quote Daniel.
Yeah.
But he goes, when you pray to God, when you talk to God, it's prayer. But when God talks back, that's schizophrenia.
Yeah, that's right.
And everyone laughs. And it's like, well,
it's true.
It shouldn't be. If we can pray to the creator and that prayer is answered, then that means this whole system has responded to you. Okay. So when you talk about manifestation, power of prayer, hands-on healing,
Right.
all the
of it.
stuff all the stuff that Jesus kind of talked about. Okay, we can do it.
Yeah, handshaking. We call it handshaking and medicine men and the healers and everything.
Yeah.
I've tell you, I've felt the warmth in my palms as I laid them across somebody. You can feel that energy.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Whether you call it Reiki or whether you call it handshaking or whether you call it, massage therapy or whether whatever, right, Lynn?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Healing. How many years in the health industry for you? And the handling on hands. And how much better did a patient do when they were visited by someone who loved them, that stayed with them, that cared for them? They responded differently, did they not?
Yes.
They healed faster. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it was 1996 or 1992. I don't remember. But in RN magazine, there was a whole article about the healing touch, the healing hands, or the healing touch. And it was talking about nurses being trained to do this, and they actually did a piece maybe on 60 Minutes. I'm not really sure, but the patient would come out of surgery, and they were just like, as tight as a board. Okay, and the nurses would come in and do this, hands over the patient, and it relaxed them almost instantly.
Yeah. And it's just, so please, if you guys are caring for someone who's infirmed or a child who's sick, or you're sick yourself, you can do this for yourself too. We did everything with, when I tell you everything, sensory, touch. There was people in the family that were mad that I was rubbing his feet and talking to him and rubbing his legs, because I saw the physical therapist come in on the second day, and she would do a couple things. It was almost like the atrophy was starting already.
Yeah.
And I said, if you could do that, how often would you, at any time, day or night, how often would you do this? She said, like at least, twice a day. And I said, how about every hour? How about if I added some nice, like lemon scented, vanilla scented something or other? How about if I talked to him or sang to him while I did it?
That's right. Yeah.
And this is what we did. And I'm telling you, this works. And the people that had no one, I don't know how. I don't know how people make it. And this is what we're supposed to be doing for each other, people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I got two little stories to tell you.
You go right ahead, and then I'm gonna let y'all go on Easter night back to your peeps and your jelly beans and your families. This has been wonderful.
But okay, in one story, this is a story that I'm going to tell, and it goes back about 20 some odd thousand years, and it talks about crystals. How crystals can vibrate at a certain frequency and repair the body. Keep it healthy because of the frequency and vibration of these crystals, and they get passed around. And as through the ages go, people forget what's going on. Okay, that crystals are a transmitter of energy. Okay, so what do we have? We have the crystal ball. We have the magic wand, the crystal wand. We have crystal cities that people talk about. And Admiral Byrd actually went to Antarctica City that was lined with crystals. Okay. There is a 2-foot tall crystal in the Billings, Montana Mineral Museum that resonates tachyons. And it was left there by the Anunnaki. Okay. So crystals. Now, then, of course, modern science catches up and says, oh, gee whiz, there's a professor by the name of Vogel, Vogel, Dr. Vogel. And you can type into any search engine, type in Vogel crystals. And he manufactures these crystals that you can just hold in your hand and wave over a sick person, and they will get better. It's an amplifier of your own energy. Psychically as well. And you'll see mistresses of the ancient arts, they have a crystal in their third eye.
Right.
They're wearing
magnifier.
This tiara, and there's a crystal there. All of that is an amplifier or magnifier. And that dates way back to the Anunnaki, 440,000 some odd years ago. So they just done a
magnify
study.
The love, people.
Yeah.
Magnify the love. Look at there.
And they've just done a study about something. Anyway, I can't remember exactly what civilization it was, but it was called piezoelectrical crystals, piezoelectrical energy. And this is found not only at the Sage Wall, it's found in Tiwanaku, it's found in Egypt, it's found in Peru, where they put these crystals into like a concrete or stucco, and they put them on the outsides of their walls. And there's a doctor from Bosnia, and he, found this Bosnian pyramid. Well, anyway, he has this device that can go up to these walls and tell you what the energy level is. And he says, okay, here in natural air, 10 feet away from this wall, there's very little or no energy. And then the closer he got to this wall, the more the meter went up. Now you can look under Julie Ryder. Her name is Julie Ryder, and type in Sage Wall Julie Ryder, and there's going to be 2 or 3 videos come up on YouTube.
Got it. She's over there writing all this down. I'm watching. She's like, do I need to find a pen? I'm like, Lynn's got it. Lynn's got it.
And so this
Julie, what? I'm sorry, Julie
Ryder, Ryder, I think it is like that. Not R. Yeah, Ryder. Anyway, and so we do have tools now that can monitor this energy. Okay, so there's an energy form there that is conducive and helps us stay healthy. Well, if we could work with this a little bit more, get the Vogel crystals going, we could put this in hospitals and radiate that energy to the intensive care unit.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And again, you could do that for yourself too.
Yes.
And I think that's what we're trying to do in so many different ways. Is like some of us will go get some crystals, and some of us will go do this or do that. Again, why not all of it? What works for you in your day. Again, remember your water, whatever you're vibrating at. Don't you feel better when you're dancing in the kitchen barefoot, singing, whatever, some old 1950s song or whatever, or, the Twist, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, Chevy Checker and the Twist. Yeah.
You feel better when you're outside and you're connected with nature and you're getting all those vibrations. You're feeling better when you're meditating, when you're listening to good music that resonates on a higher vibration. All of this.
There's an old song by Rush, I think it is, and it's like, I wake up in the morning and I walk outside and I scream, "What's going on?" It's like, what's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah, and that's exactly the way I feel half the time.
And they want us in that fear frequency.
Yes,
I can feel it on the television. That's why there's certain things. I'm like, there's frequencies in that. Get it off. Or
I don't even watch TV anymore.
All of it. Yeah, you can't because it's all right there to keep you here. Start working on keeping your lights on and understanding that everything you felt. That everything is connected, that energy and healing hands, whether it's, laughter is the best medicine. Again, it's all the same thing. Yeah. It's all that frequency and that energy.
In ancient Egypt, they would, the Anubis or one of his ilk would put your heart on a scale. There'd be a scale and they would put your heart on one side and a feather on the other. And if your heart was heavy in regret or something, then you would have to go to take your penance. But if your heart was the same as a feather, then you would go to heaven. You wouldn't have to suffer. But I always say, if your heart's made of gold, then it's always going to be heavier than that feather, no matter what.
That's so true. Because you care.
That's very true.
Because you have compassion and, and that's it too. We always talk about it. Some of this on our journey, we're walking this journey. We're just supposed to enjoy it and learn and help each other along the journey when they converge and we meet each other on the trail. But it doesn't mean it's not going to get dark. And a lot of light workers have to walk through the dark to get the strength to walk in the light.
Yeah, we got to go through the muck and mire in the valley to get to the mountain, to climb that mountain. But the other thing too, and I think this is, I don't know if where this came from, but I'm not sure what society it came from. But there's an old story that when you look at a Persian rug or a rug, we are just one thread in that rug. Okay. when we pull back, like if we're back in heaven, okay, and we look down at that rug, we can see the whole thing. We can see how it intertwines with itself.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. So our road, our destinies will be different. Mine's going to be different than Lynn's. Mine's going to be different than Cisco's. Okay. So the deal is that that's okay. I've learned to accept that. Okay. My road is my road. I'm going to find a few things. You're going to find a few things. And together we'll just reach a new paradigm. And that's what this is all about. I have never seen any ghost investigator saying, oh, I'm stuck in my old ways. No. If you really get into this, the entities are all around you. They're there to help you if you call on them. You know,
Yes.
I had a friend.
That's key. Calling.
That's so true.
Yeah. I had
Sorry
a
about
friend.
that.
Yeah, that's all right. I had a friend, and she would always like say, call on your parking angel when you go to Walmart or
so
something
true.
like that. You know,
It's funny. It's true.
and I just kind of looked at her and like, oh, that's just so silly, you know. And then after a while, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. You know, I'm going to call on my parking angel. I'm going to call on my fashion angel. I'm going to call on some angel
Somebody
to
to
help
help
me.
me.
Yeah. And I was talking to Renee the other day, this has never happened to me. And, you know, and this is stories. But she said she'd walk into a bookstore, bookstore, and the book would fall down off the shelf and land at her feet, open to the answer that she was looking for.
She's looking for. When you get open to this and you start, they want to show off, but you have free will. You have to ask them. Make it specific for me. Ask your guides for help. Start
it's the
slow,
same thing.
and you got it.
They have free will. They have a choice. They don't have to help you if they don't want to.
Right.
But
and sometimes you have to hit the tree.
Yeah. Sometimes 9 times out of 10, they're going to, if you ask for help, they will help you. This entire universe has like gears, and I call it gears and cogs. And this goes into motion. And I've done this. Okay. Let's back away from ghost investigations just for a second. So up the street, there's this little haberdashery shop that, you know, it's like a Goodwill or a secondhand shop. Okay. So I sit here at my desk and I go, I need a briefcase. Okay. And I just set it out there. Now, a good briefcase is, you know, $40-50. And they don't even they wear backpacks today. So
they don't even, yeah.
So I have put a specific briefcase in my mind. And I sit there and go, okay, I want it to arrive at that secondhand store so I can buy it. Okay. 2 weeks go by. Well, I'm out and about, you know, going to the post office, going shopping or whatever. And I just swing into that secondhand store, right? And there it was. For $1.98, the exact briefcase.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I just had that happen. I kid you not. I just had that happen. Same thing. My daughter has a formal dance coming up at the end of the month for school. And we had ordered this other dress. It was terrible. And I'm in Goodwill shopping on the dollar rack and overhanging on the men's section. There's this gorgeous dress for $4.49. And I go over there and it just so happens that it's her size. And not only that, it had been altered so it fits her perfectly. And it even had a dry clean sticker on it. So I didn't have to do any of it. I kid you not. And this is like a $300 dress.
Now that's a miracle.
Yeah.
That's miraculous.
But see, your guides can help. And I also add this little thing I also add this little thing when I do stuff like that is, you know, like if it's something important, like we have to go into an office and something has to go our way, or somebody just has to push something this way to give somebody a break. And I'll say, touch the person's heart or and give them the words and take their and help their mind to do this right thing. We need this. This has to happen. Can you touch the people? And you'll see people almost like it's one of those shows in, like, what do you call it? Angel on My Shoulder, or Angel for a Day, or Highway to Heaven, where you see the person go, no, wait a minute, give it to her. You know, I mean, you'll see those kind of things happen. I'm telling you, go out in the world. And
is that it?
Oh, that's amazing.
That's beautiful.
Look at this
out into the world. That's incredible.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Is that not evidence? Is that not evidence?
I know.
Look at it. $4
Is that not wonderful?
and 49
Try-
cents
Beautiful.
at Goodwill. Look at the
But don't do them like where
at the
you're
beating.
sad and you're crying and you're
Right.
like, oh my God, I need. No, I'm going to go in that store and I'm going to manifest it, put it out in the universe, do it positive. Listen,
Don't-
guys, go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead. Finish
don't
it.
wait till you're on your ropes and on your knees crying
No.
about it.
No,
Okay,
Yes.
do it
that's
long
a
before.
lower vibration thing.
Okay, so one time, well, I've never really had a personal tuxedo. I always would
No,
have to
don't
rent
like that.
for weddings
you-
and things like that, right? Well, I'm like
That's okay,
Lynn.
thanks.
I just happened to be in Goodwill
Thank
looking for some ties or something.
Uh-huh.
And I go through the men's section. I very seldom do I ever go through Goodwill's men's section. And lo and behold, there was a tuxedo
Uh-huh.
right there.
Oh, I've
And
had
I
it
said,
happen.
oh my God, I got it for $18.
Mm.
Yes.
I put it in my car. I immediately drove to my tailor's, and the jacket fit me perfect, but the
Mhm.
pants were just a little long. So I said, can you put cuffs in them? You know, things like that. And they did. And I have it in my closet. I can't pull it out for
amazing.
you right now, but it
It's
was
the
there.
little
It's
things.
evidence.
Yeah, it is. I've had it happen multiple times, especially if you need it. Like, and I'll tell you when it works, guys. It works, like we said, it's not like so much when you're miserable and all this. You know, of course, if you call out to your guides, if you're in need,
Yeah.
that I don't mean that. Yes, do it, but try to remain positive about it. You know, this the people I like is like, well, you're not going to let me have it. Why would you give it to me? Why could like you're Eeyore through life and you wonder why you keep losing your tail? Be a Tigger, you know,
Yeah.
bouncy trouncy,
More.
even when it's hard, because that's when it counts, you know.
That's right.
Yes.
And this has been amazing. What a great Easter show that just came out of nowhere, grew organically, and you know, we got to do it again because
Well,
we
and
just
I
barely
told you-
touched.
I
We
told you
barely
were gonna,
touched.
I told you were going to love Dr. Mike. He is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You're going to want to have him back many, many times.
Absolutely. If you
But-
would
But
choose
you
to
know,
do so.
I have a lot of friends, and I talk to a lot of them, and the first thing that they overlook is compassion,
Mhm.
because they're looking for stuff. I'm looking for stuff.
Mhm.
You know, I'm something will make me complete,
Oh yeah,
and I say, well,
bullets
what,
never fill.
what about compassion? Do you have so anyway? So I did this little lecture about cooking. And I said, you know, when I sit down to cook, I look at all my spices, you know, my spice rack, and I'll throw in some thyme and some of this and some of that. And then the last thing I have on my spice rack is a bottle called love.
Makes all the difference.
And that makes all the difference. How it tastes, how it's delivered is little compassion.
Mhm.
And that is the missing ingredient in so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to be compassionate. And the other thing is to have mercy. Have mercy. You know, do you have to win all the time?
So true.
Do you have to have it your way all the time?
Right. How
Maybe-
you got
maybe
humility.
just- Yeah, little compassion.
You got to
goes
let
a
it
long
go.
way.
You got to like let them have it.
Absolutely.
If you're in battle constantly at work or with office people or whatever, and you see the way it's going down,
Right.
sometimes you just got to let them have it. Let them flow in their thing, and you gray man it.
Yeah.
Just be you and just flow through it.
Right.
You
I
know?
said my mantra for a long time, especially when people are driving crazy down the highway, I go, you do you and I'll do me.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see who gets there or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're
As long
driving
as yours
crazy,
doesn't get on mine, I'm cool.
that's right. That's right. That's right.
Don't get
gonna
yours on
bet-
my. Steve says, "Don't get your chocolate in my peanut butter."
That's right.
Lynn, where are you going to be? This has been fabulous. Lynn, where are you going to be this week? You got the wonderful with Anne Marie Synchronicity show coming Tuesday, and
We do. Actually, we have Dave Scott from
Oh,
SR Radio
yeah.
going to be
yeah,
on.
Space Out
which is-
Radio.
which is a rarity for him. I feel honored to have him on.
That's wonderful. He's got great stories.
Yes, and the week after that we have Bo Polney. I don't know if you know
Oh,
who he is,
wonder!
but
Sounds familiar.
but he is an analyst, and he overlays all of the biblical things as well as he takes things from the Jewish, all of it. Granted, I mean, it may sound religious, but it's more analytical, talking about current times and how everything is lining up. So we've got a couple of really, really great things coming up.
Love is the way home.
Exactly. Yeah.
Echo, beautiful, beautiful. That's it, baby. Yeah.
So yes, absolutely.
I could
wonderful.
really throw a monkey wrench in this whole thing if you want me to.
Don't do it.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Do you want me to do it or no?
You're going to monkey wrench my episode?
Yeah.
No, it's beautiful. What are you going to do? We have wrenches. Wait a minute. Mods, battle. Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
they have wrenches too.
Okay. Well, how much time we got? How much? We're out of time?
Go ahead. You have, if you want to tell another story, go right ahead and then we'll head out.
Okay. Now, any psychic or dowser can figure this out. So what I'm telling you is not, impossible to reason with. But Jesus, the man we know as Jesus, was a Pleiadian human hybrid. And when he came down from the cross, he was he was dying. He was dying, and they prepared his body. And then he was beamed up to a ship, and in a medical bay, his consciousness and his body was revived, and they put him back on the third day it was really his. It was Joseph of Arimathea's tomb, but they put him back in his tomb, and they rolled the door open. So
and there it was.
Yeah,
and there it was. So Jesus is
the Pleiadians are mostly very high vibrational love, even when they, they're. There's a certain what's the word I'm looking for? Atmosphere they need to be in. I don't even know how they could be here for very long with the hate and the.
Now, for about 100,000 years, the extraterrestrials were trying to, outdo each other. So they kept raising their frequencies, and so they actually got these guys together who had very high frequencies, and they became the Pleiadian Council. And there's like 150 of them. And what they do is they meditate on what they should do next. And they call in angelic forces to guide them in their exploits. Okay. I want to know how many senators do that.
Not
how many
many,
congressmen, how many congressmen, how many presidents?
Not many. And there's a few demons running around Washington, D.C. I can tell you that right now. That's for sure. Yeah. Tell us where to find you, Dr. Mike.
I'm on Facebook.
I'm on your YouTube channel, and where are you coming up on? And would you come back?
Yeah, I'll come back. Yeah, no problem. We haven't even touched the surface of what I want to get into.
But I thought it'd be wonderful for them to go to your YouTube channel. So drop that, and then you can get in there, learn about the Techions and everything else. Right. And a lot of these things are going to have new names.
Yes.
To things you already believe.
Yeah.
And it just starts clipping and snapping in.
Now, a lot of this comes back from the ancient Greek. Okay. So tachyon is a Greek word. It dates back, and like Plato and all these guys, Socrates, they were all on this. They were saying, this is this thoughts and this is a presence of spirituality. I'm saying. So I'm using some of the older language, but it's all around us. It's ever present, just like the air we breathe, just like the entities, the ghosts couldn't do what they do without that energy, without that energy being present. And it radiates through all the universes, all the way into the afterlife, all the way to heaven, and it's all created out of love. And we can amplify that energy by hitting the frequency of love. And
these are big little spirits that are here to teach us that exact lesson right here.
Yes.
Look at that baby. He had a big Easter, didn't you? He had a big Easter.
Oh,
he did. He did.
Speaking of Jesus being Pleiadian, there are a lot of the Pleiadian people here. I actually found out that I'm Arcturian, so I know that there's So I
kind of huge. They're blue. They're tall blue people.
Yes,
tall blue. That's the ones with the real tall. Wow.
They're okay.
And I'm personally I am 5'9", so I am tall.
Wow. Yeah, that's good.
Wow.
Between our DNA, DNA has to match our consciousness. I don't want to get too psychological here, but our DNA has to match our consciousness has to ride in our DNA. Okay, because that's the electrical circuitry of the body. So it's possible for Pleiadians to go into a human body. consciousness, Pleiadian consciousness go into a human body. The same as it is for other consciousnesses, let's say a gray or a tall gray can go into an Orion body. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If the consciousness can coalesce into the DNA, then they can switch bodies however they want. One body will die.
Mm-hmm.
They leave that body, and then they have the equipment to go to replace that into another body. And so sometimes it's just whatever body is available, or they just stay in the afterlife until one becomes available.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's where you start getting your step-ins and walk-ins and
all of
takeovers.
All of this is because someone had the courage to go ghost hunting.
Way back in the day. And Glenn found the name of that movie, and I forget what it was now, but he popped it up here, that one that you were talking about with Lewis and everybody else.
Martin.
And again, if you've never seen A Time of Their Lives, Abbott and Costello, 1938, they got it right in that movie. It's fantastic. So guys, listen, happy Easter to you, whatever color your eggs are, I don't care. And I love you all. Lynn, thank you so much. And Dr. Mike, lovely meeting you. And I hope to see you again soon. We'll talk and we'll get a whole another show on the next phase of the
very pleasant conversation. And
wonderful.
Like I said, if you look at my videos on YouTube, I try to make it kind of simple, as simple, but at the same time, it is all the truth. It's all real.
Yes, it is.
I've seen it.
It's good.
And
that goes without question. That is without question.
I just got one last little tidbit. And I was in Tombstone, Arizona at the bird cage. And in the back, we had a little seance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this guy who was across the table from me started choking, and he broke the ring, right? He started choking, and it was like he was just trying to cough, but he was being choked. And then you see right from the back of the neck, an orb come right out of the back of his neck.
Yeah. Wow.
And okay, he was going to go off to Iraq or Afghanistan, and that nothing. He went through boot camp. He went through everything. Nothing scared him so much than that entity attacking him at the base of his neck.
Yeah. It'll get you. I actually had that happen in a cellar in Gettysburg in the house. I was telling you about that. We got to talk about. I got to get you so many different experiments you can put there just to see and validation and stuff. You'll absolutely love it. Lynn, I love you, darling. Happy Easter to you and your family and your holidays.
Thank you so much.
Lovely to meet you, Dr. Mike. We're going to have some raccoons take us out tonight for your high vibe. Woo! Oh, Vixen Doe, thank you so much for that wonderful super sticker. I love you, love you. Your comments will be on this video throughout, and we'll have our outro so you can keep talking.
Can I say
in your love? Go ahead, darling.
Can I say one thing? When I was on the show the last time with Cisco, I did that offer for the books. I want to make sure that everybody received them that did contribute.
Vixen Doe and Ted.
Okay, I've only sent one out, and I believe it was Vixen Doe's. I haven't sent Ted's out, so I need for him to.
Too.
Yes, I want to be able. I know that he wants. Yes, I'll make sure that he gets that. But I usually like to do it and connect it with Cisco as copied in on it, so that she can also be aware that you did receive the item. So
I think I sent it to you last week, so I'll look and I'll send it back.
Okay, I found. Okay, I didn't find Ted's. I did find Vixen's. So
we're gonna find you, Ted. And you're hiding in my email, darling. I'll get you.
Yeah,
I'll get you, darling.
I don't want to forget anybody. So
all right, everybody. I love you all. Your comments will be on here. Thank you again, and have a blessed night. Keep the lights on.
That's right.
Okay, it's like Motel 6. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.